What do you think is like fundamental about like SF and SF culture that's kind of just this optimal environment for startups to grow? What does Austin need to do to catch up? Do you see Austin kind of getting there?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. I've thought about this quite a bit, because my goal is to stay in Austin if I could after grad, right? That's just where I grew up. It was home. I love UT, love the city. But I think, frankly, there's just something different about Silicon Valley. And actually, I have a book here. There's a book here that Nader gave me, but it's like what the Dormouse said. And it's about how the semiconductor industry started in Silicon Valley in the 60s and how that eventually led to like what became Silicon Valley and what became like the hotbed of innovation. But basically the book high level talks about how like the semiconductor industry started in like San Jose, Santa Clara area. And from there, like just all of this technology innovation just started bringing capital. And the first VC firm ever was called like Sequoia, right? And they started investing. They created this whole new investing class where you could invest your private capital into these companies' equity, and as it kind of scaled, you have like outsized returns, right? And so you're basically just placing bets on these early stage companies. So from the semiconductor industry, shaped like the personal computing industry, right, with like Microsoft, IBM, etc. And then from there led to like just like the dot com boom in like the 90s. And from the dot com boom went to like the app layer, right? And every single stage, like if you trace it back, you can trace it back to the 60s when semiconductors first started in Silicon Valley. And so in all that innovation is like you can think of it as layers of a stack or layers of a cake. Like they start building on top of each other. And it's only happening in Silicon Valley where it all started. Now add to the top of that, on top of that, you have like fresh infusion of talent coming from Berkeley and Stanford and all these other schools in the area that are constantly feeding into this ecosystem, right? And then you also have the success of like VC, like venture capital investors like Sequoia, which attracted even more capital, even more like LP funding into these like asset streams to like invest into these startups. And eventually you have this perfect concoction of like investors of ideas and like innovation and there's like market and then also like fresh talent constantly coming in. And eventually like even if you aren't in the Bay Area, you start getting FOMO. You're like, I have to move there. Like, even if I didn't go to Berkeley or Stanford, even if I'm not a VC investor, or even if I don't have the ideas, like, I want to be a part of that. You kind of just have to go. And so Silicon Valley and especially San Francisco just became ingrained in that for such a long time that it's like such a huge advantage over anywhere else in the world.